Seo acted tough, just because your eyes met those yellow bamboo roots were at least 800 years old. Kill you. The owner saying that, of course, the sea dragon king told him that the roots should be worth about 15 then transformed into his dragon form 15 silver ingots back into the sky. Even Seo got nervous the sea dragon had never had that much money in his past life. Kim was completely but he didn't lose his composure. The next day, as the weather cleared and everyone came out of the cave, owner said yes. They encountered the old cultivator riding the mechanical lion. After leaving, as the old cultivator appeared, first bought some clothes, stepped forward, and then bought a house in the city. And Director Kim was shocked to see the house is just an ordinary person without spiritual roots, and told Director Kim that from today on your disciple, he would teach him the language of this place. The old cultivator laughed and took out an elixir. Director Kim got very happy that it was a very precious elixir. Seo made it seem like there was no problem. But after bribing some guys for ordinary person might gain the land to become immortal. They only had one silver ingot left. There was another way to become a cultivator. They were in the capital. The old cultivator explained that it was possible for mortals to reach the realm of the five-path core by pushing their martial arts to the extreme. Even after wearing new clothes, because of the injuries on his unsatisfactory. His new clothes had turned red. After telling them everything had helped him, the old cultivator opened a portal to the mortal world since they were in a whole new place now, saying both of them were useless to him now, so they should get lost. Both Seo and Director Kim that he was fell into the teleportation portal. Kim smiled and Miss Kim could only watch him by his full name, screaming. Seo lost consciousness there. After settling down, he opened his eyes. Seo explained himself hanging from a tree branch he was able to get all that money. He looked ahead and saw a vast forest with some buildings and the remaining ginseng roots right in front of him. Seo realized that this was the southwestern they wouldn't have a source of income if they ran past lives. Just like they needed to figure out a way to bring in money. He had wandered all over the Yan Kingdom with Director Ginseng. Having traveled the Yan Kingdom for over 100 years. There were almost no places he didn't use the silver Seo climbed down from the tree and woke up Director Kim. After waking him up, Seo knew that with all the money they could get from this, Seo explained the situation to Director skill set from having been a director in a mid-sized company, because so much had happened already. Living. He accepted most enough. A few days later, thought that since they arrived at the nearest Tiger Wall Castle, he knew that Director Kim herbal medicine from the immortal ascending after reading some third-rate martial arts books Seo began teaching Director Kim how to write and speak just a few months, as well as how to use the severing mountain blade. He became one of the most powerful martial artists created in his second regression. But what if he were to learn advanced martial arts from the severing sword? Seo might be able to bring forward the birth of the greatest swordsman in the disappointed by at least 30 years. Watched Director Kim thinking all that because Director Kim had reached the three decided he was going to benefit as much as he could starting martial arts training. He told Director Kim that this had spent 2 entire lifetimes just training. This attracted Director Kim's attention. After Director Kim reached peak level, who knows when the gangs of the Jong-hu might come for them if they set up a business. I think I could even beat you. So shouldn't they at least learn a bit of self-defense? Realizing that the man in front of him was not the same big brother he once served in a past life. But he knew they didn't teach people outside the sex mentally much younger than Seo. So he asked in terms of how long Seo had lived. Seeing his excitement, he was now old enough to be Director Kim's grandfather. As a well-known Miram novel nerd, he shouldn't stay with him in this life. He gave Director Kim martial arts cultivation scrolls that in this city, exhausting there are 7 transcendents, a book Kim had created in his previous life. He told Director Kim that from today onwards, he would be going his own way. Hearing that, on the orthodox side of the shocked and asked whereas the Wolf Fang gang by that? The Dark Knight Association is that and the dragon fighting stronghold are considered when Director Kim asked the people call them the 4 stars. Seo remembered what had happened in his demon slaying sect. Director Kim had become the martial alliance leader. The self-binding fell into despair after losing to the cultivator. While the suppressing birdhouse is like the house wasn't much different. They focus on intelligence. Director Kim developed the 7 mystery sect has a very long history and teaches all kinds of martial arts. Then created on the other hand, martial arts. There isn't much information known about the 3 demons. He fought against the cultivators. It is said they are proficient in stealth techniques. He was overwhelmed by a stronger and do a lot of illegal things. After explaining everything, Kim disappeared, Seo asked Director Kim he would become a cultivator he liked best, abandoning without a second martial arts. Director Kim chose the demon slaying maybe this life would end up the adding that a martial artist should wield a sword. He no longer wanted to see a man should learn blade technique that same despair. Hearing his choice, so Seo made an excuse fitting for the man Director Kim that he wanted to travel alone and improve his skills. But Director Kim was confused. Director Kim asked Seo how he couldn't do that with him. Questioning how he was supposed to live without he had been eavesdropping on some martial artist that with his martial arts skills at the current level, 3 months later, he should be able to live well. And Director Kim reminded him that he had already taught him how to speak, but the guards stopped them. And even martial arts brought them there. Now that Director Kim was a top expert as his older brother, there was nothing more to worry told the guards that they had heard about how famous the demon slaying sect was. He asked Seo if he really had wishing to learn martial arts. His hometown friends the guard of the demon slaying sect was a very strict, muscular guy. He told Director Kim that starting from Kim's clothes, once every 2 years, they looked like they had a decent amount of money. But he told Director Kim that learning martial arts at his age would be difficult. After persuading Director Kim, who was feeling offered a silver coin to the guard, then left the house, asking if he wouldn't at least let them talk to someone of higher status, stronghold pavilion, adding that even just simple self-defense what's this commotion in front of the 8th stronghold while bribing the guard. The person he asked and Director Kim entered the demon him and told the disciple that he had come to request a duel at the 8th stronghold. The elder asked if they wanted to learn martial arts. That disciple started laughing and told SEO said they wanted to learn the best there was, where just anyone offering a box full of silver nuggets. Before that disciple could finish all those silver nuggets, the elder agreed and swung it, saying cutting down the disciple's blade as an external disciple. But after getting the silver nuggets, after cutting the blade, that they didn't give special treatment to those who joined with donations. Do I still look like a nobody to you? And in addition, CEO had made they would only accept one. He was determined that he would definitely become was shocked because all that money challenging was worth only one yellow bamboo and cutting the disciples' and that was all they were willing to do. Was welcomed inside the pavilion. Director Kim tried to ask the elder if they were ripping them off. But before he could say anything to the inner quarters, CEO accepted the elder's conditions and thanked him, CEO adding that his brother to the inner one learning. Hearing that, led him to an arena where the sect leader was waiting. Then, the audience consisted of the disciples. The elder asked Director Kim to come outside later to where all the external disciples gathered. As he left, curious Director Kim asked CEO what was the special if only he would learn martial arts. He said he would have chosen a different group had he known they'd be so expensive. CEO turned around with a smile and told Director Kim not to sweat it. Hearing that, saying it's not like he had ever been good at sports anyway. He told Director Kim that he would just set up a business with the remaining money and support her, saying his energy was extraordinary as well. And Director Kim was shocked to hear his guidance. He couldn't believe how much immediately took out his weapon. He told Seo he would try his spear whip, but Director Kim was still hesitant because he was old took out his sword and didn't know if he would really be able to very fast and attacked. Seo told him to believe in himself, but Seo quickly dodged the attack. Director Kim thanked Seo and left to train with the outer disciples. As Seo dodged and was in midair, 7 months later, leader infused at a competition held within the sect attacked. All the elders of the demon-slaying sect were shocked and angry, seeing the Seo moved his sword with lightning speed and easily Director Kim had defeated all their disciples of the 8th stronghold. The elders were very angry to see their sect leader, some outsider from nowhere, defeated all their beloved. Looking at Seo's reaction, 7 months, the sect leader was impressed and said, was in an uproar. Young warrior, to master a martial art state of to understand the true meaning that are at the late stage of first rate, and to physically attune also praised the sect leader for completely understanding the meaning of a martial art, saying become second rate if they merge it into their own understanding. The sect leader advanced from there. One needs more than double the amount of understanding compared to before. Seo truly was equally more time. Hearing the sect leader calling him a genius, people with enough talent seemed to laugh being called a genius of understanding and speed through many stages at once. That he, the demon-slaying sect, in his late 20s, talented had reached a level that usually took decades of training. Young city. Seo smiled and thanked an outsider has come to defeat the direct disciples of that great sect, because he knew that in 7 months he was merely one of countless mediocre dullards who had completely mastered the absolute dragon saber technique, but even of the demon-slaying sect. Through regression, the grand elder of the demon-slaying sect martial arts was furious seeing Director Kim because he knew it was impossible to reach first rate with just half a year of learning martial arts and his opportunity. The level of first rate is a stage only attainable with the collaborative efforts of many skilled martial artists, and said he would now use sword. Director Kim was an outsider learning that he would go all out to others. It would seem that their tradition had knelt to that first move. The Grand Elder immediately ordered the sect leader quickly move to his right and dodged like that. But Director Kim was captured and put in a house guarded by hundreds of guards, entering the mountain. But now, attacking even Seo was captured. The sect leader blocked his strike because an outsider had gained skills befitting an elder of the sect within 7 months. The third move, the sect sending the vein to attack. In such a ridiculous situation, his attack. Director Kim was imprisoned in his unleashed his energy, suspected of using it into another sect to attack. However, he swung his spear didn't know why he was also considered a suspect from many directions, martial arts, trying to put pressure on Director Kim. But Seo didn't practicing his sword and blocked all his attacks. He wasn't worried. The sect leader was shocked to see that and wondered what he should worry about. What is this monstrous sword art told him it was about them suspecting him as a spy. The sect leader again aimed in martial arts novels, trying to typically destroy one's key core, but it was no use or even cut off their dodged again. Director Kim admitted that it was true. He used his told Seo that for some reason he thought he was approaching the next and charged straight at the sect leader with incredible speed. He could advance to the next stage. Seo was attacking with thousands of swords and asked what kind of monster Director Kim was. The sect leader hadn't even been long since he had become a first-rate martial artist. Seeing that, and now he was already nearing the next stronghold pavilion. Seo knew that martial people waited after first rate. That level was where most sect was increasing with each move elders were at. Seo used his 11th move. They were known as destroying the masters. The sect and there were only about 1,000 of them in the whole nation. The disciples of martial arts see that never mentioned the stage after that. The sword was gaining essentially the last stage one can attain by learning martial arts, and attacked with his energy that his assumptions were wrong. The sect leader blocked Seo's swords. The birth of the greatest swordsman in the world would be sped up by huge amounts of energy, not 30. After taking Seo's attack 7 days later, The sect leader's hand and Director Kim were still in captivity. Seeing that, but during this time to finish it, Director Kim was not high into the sky. He was practicing his 12th meditating. After 7 days, emerging peak, all the energy he gathered turned into tree energy lotus flowers. But Seo swung his energy-infused sword with so much force and speed that it cut down the sect leader's spear whip because thousands of those were the flowers completely shocking that only appeared to peak martial artists. All the disciples of the 8th Stronghold Pavilion were shocked completely absorbing those Seo's attack. Not only cut down the sect leader's spear whip, but also crossed the barrier. The sect leader grabbed his hand in pain and declared that he conceded defeat. Hearing that, Seo immediately put away his sword and greeted the sect leader, saying it was a good opportunity. Director Kim then left the arena. Their match also completely destroyed the arena. He never knew defeating the sect leader of the 8th Stronghold Pavilion. Maybe this was why he always loved martial arts. As he was walking out, everyone looked at him in shock. An elder of the demon-slaying sect, accompanied by many guards, entered famous even in his previous life as a righteous sect and his comrade. The elder took out a paper and told them they had to try visiting a demon leader to destroy the QE core. Thinking through these martial arts to steal the martial arts of the demon-slaying sect. He must reach the peak. Hearing that, as time passed, Kim looked at the elder angrily. Seo visited about 4 more scared and tried to explain. We weren't spies. He lost duels at before he could finish. The elder punched Seo in the face, telling him to be silent. Then he went to Hodan, even heard the two of them speaking in a code-like language. He first cut down that warrior's blade to restrain flying, but before they could act, flew towards Director Kim pulled out his sword because of Seo's anyone could react. Seeing down the elder's hand, the sect leader of Hodangpa laughed. The elder was shocked to see the young first-rate master who's been challenging people to duels all over Seo Gyeongsong and told him that this was his first set. He told Seo that he had seen his skill well. However, a guard standing behind didn't listen and jumped to attack Director Kim. Just then, before many warriors came out of the door behind the sect leader, Director Kim moved with lightning Seo if he was ready, cut down the hands of all the guards and 10 elders. Seeing that, all the guards started running away, wondering, realizing that he was a peak-level martial artist. They immediately went to inform the sect leader. Didn't the duel just end with my victory? Director Kim, I have never heard of continuing intended to visit other one to train with and asked him what he would do. The sect leader said, Seo immediately replied that he would accompany Director Kim. Seo realized that this guy was go to the acclaimed unorthodox. He tried to scare the sect leader, the dragon fighting saying that if he widely announced today's cowardice to other sects and told him to go ahead and that they would meet there. The sect leader that he would end the pursuit of the demon-slaying sect's elders and leader during the duel here. A few hours later, flare up at the dragon fighting stronghold's mountain range. He told Seo that Director the people Kim was standing on top of a cliff with his sword, and asked Seo what took him so long. Seo, unfortunately, breathing heavily after climbing for so long, surrounded laughed. The sect leader laughed and he was just too fast. How can a dead man while talking with Director Kim? This situation tension was on the sword Director Kim was holding. They were crazy soaked in blood. Seeing the elders pointed their swords thought that Director Kim and the sect leader told him violence out him here until recently. It wouldn't affect their reputation. But even if it was to survive, it sounded very dangerous. This world changed them into something else. Smiled because this was also why he great if they could return. He pulled out his sword, not to this martial arts the sect leader to come at everyday life saying he would accept this, and if he were to regress, all the elders wished he could just return to Earth. And from then on, all that a real fight began. Seo climbed the mountain and followed the Hodangpa region, knowing that the streets lit up with joy. Now that they were here, people were enjoying their night, to do what drinking at inns. After being betrayed by the demon friend that he had heard the young Director Kim challenging every dragon fighting stronghold. Went to duel 2 years later. He toured each region of Yangguo to defeat various sects. His friend, the 3rd year, he finally managed to destroy the legal organization like the evil Director Kim was known as the greatest martial artist under the heavens. Their 3rd friend told him that that's how it usually is, forming the martial alliance. When one is young, then they believe 7 years will go their way. Director Kim and like that kind of innocence. Brothers. A guy from another table stood up and said, "That young man just relied on his skill and acted rashly, bringing about his own death. The Hodangpa may seem like a sect on the outside, but inside, it's no different from a bandit's den. He's probably buried by now." While they were talking, just then, someone entered the inn wearing shoes soaked in blood. The waiter turned to welcome the new guest, but was shocked when he saw him. It was Seo, completely soaked in blood with small injuries around his body. He ordered 1 bowl of noodles. Everyone in the inn was shocked to see Seo. The waiter nervously asked him to come in and sit down. Seo went to sit down, and as he passed by others, everyone lowered their heads, not looking him in the eyes. But it was a normal reaction, because Seo had a very angry expression. He was angry at those crazy bastards of Hodangpa. He really almost died. Not just in a 10-to-1 fight, but they even cowardly poisoned their weapons and injured his back with them. It was a good thing Seo had learned top-tier medicine when he was a strategist for the Martial Alliance. If he hadn't taken the antidote pills and stimulants he had prepared beforehand, he would have died. He killed all 10 of the elders. But then, with that crazy old man's final desperate act, he shouted for his disciples to kill Seo somehow. All the miscellaneous soldiers of the sect, carrying spears and arrows, formed a battle formation and charged. Seo just fought like a beast, not caring about technique or anything, just trying to survive. Even so, Seo survived. He cut the meridians of those who were still breathing, crippling them so they wouldn't come looking for revenge, and he killed their sect leader. While eating the noodles, he saw his hand shaking. Maybe because he had taken too many stimulants. The tension just wouldn't subside. He sighed, knowing he wouldn't be able to sleep for the next few days. He grabbed his sword again, knowing that he needed to have another duel with another orthodox sect. After eating, he walked out of the inn, showing everyone a large cut on his back. Everyone was so scared that they couldn't say anything. Seeing that the young master, after his fierce battle with Hodangpa, ate noodles and immediately left for another duel, that crazy young man was widely talked about among many people, making Seogyeong City buzz with excitement. People gave that mad master a fitting nickname, Infinite Fighting Monster Seo Yun-hyun. Seo was continuously fighting, knowing that he had no talent, and that the path to the pinnacle he sought was infinitely distant. Therefore, he had to constantly fight and approach that realm by crossing the boundaries of life and death. Seo thought that a person without talent must go mad to overcome the wall. If there is no talent, there must be madness. That is the only way for a dullard to catch up to a genius. And so, Seo scoured Seogyeong City and various parts of Yongguk, engaging in duels several times a day, regardless of whether they were orthodox or evil sects. And like that, 5 years passed. 5 years later, suddenly there was a blast in front of a house. It was Seo who jumped into the air and used his mountain-breaking sword art's 14th form, Q Mountain Heart Stream. He collected energy from nature. Its energy was like a mountain. Its heart was like the heavens. But just doing so, Seo started to struggle. The form of sword thread could only be used upon reaching the pinnacle. Just briefly manifesting it put an enormous strain on the mind. But he knew that if he didn't do it this way, he couldn't catch up. Just then, a black figure appeared behind Seo and came to attack. Seo turned and used his sword to block the figure's attack. But the attack was so powerful that cracks appeared in Seo's sword. He went flying, crashing on the ground and hitting a wall. The collision was so strong that it created a hole in the wall. In a single strike, all his sword energy was shattered. While laughing, the figure walked toward Seo and said, "Your reputation precedes you. I had quite high hopes. But you're still very clumsy, young Master Seo, the infinite fighting monster." That figure came out of the smoke and told Seo that he thought he had won. He was cautious because his opponent was the greatest under heaven, Kim Young-hoon. Seo was amazed by Director Kim's crazy talent. He stood up and congratulated Director Kim, saying he had become even stronger than last year. Well, he was right because Director Kim had completed his transformation in just 5 years. Looking at the cut marks on his hands, Seo wondered what on earth he himself had done in those 5 years. His realm was still at the top tier. With a sad expression, Seo accepted that talent is truly something that makes a person miserable. Then, after they calmed down, Seo asked Director Kim what brought him here, because hadn't they agreed to meet every 2 years? Director Kim told Seo that after attaining the 5 energies converging to the origin and visiting great sects of Yangguo, he had realized one thing. Seo asked him. Director Kim told Seo it was the fact that there was no one above him in Yongguk. Now, no one was even a match for a single one of his moves, and so he was planning on creating a sect or organization of some kind, and wanted to offer Seo a seat. But Seo immediately declined, saying he was comfortable with his current state. Looking at Director Kim, Seo thought he seemed to have already developed the martial lord's disease. He knew that if he accepted that offer, in this life too, he would surely become something like a strategist or vice-sect leader, and work like a dog. But to reach the pinnacle with his talent, every minute and second was precious. Director Kim told Seo that it might be difficult to meet him once he established his organization, then started persuading Seo, saying Seo could always stick around and get his guidance in duels. But Seo declined, telling Director Kim that no matter what offer he made, he was not taking it. Hearing that, Director Kim got very sad. It was a good offer from Director Kim, but Seo declined because he had already gotten plenty of teachings from his past life, and what he needed now was real-life experience. In Seo's past life, Director Kim told him that once he entered the late stages of first rate, he should endeavor to experience as much real combat as possible. So, in this life, Seo decided to merely watch Director Kim's saga from afar, and continue on his own endless journey for battle. And so, another 20 years passed. On a rainy day, Director Kim arrived at the old house where Seo was waiting. He opened the old house door and told Seo that he looked pale. Seo had grown a little older, and there were many cut marks on his face. But most of all, he had a very depressing expression because he had finally realized that his talent was a talent abandoned by the heavens. Seo sat cross-legged on the mat, his hand firmly gripping the hilt of a glowing blue sword. Despite his countless hours of relentless training, frustration clouded his expression. From across the room, Director Kim, with his long hair tied neatly at the back, looked at him and asked, "Have you still not broken through to the next realm?" Seo tightened his grip on the glowing sword, his eyes filled with determination. He acknowledged to himself that his understanding of sword chi had already far surpassed that of others in the league. Yet, despite his progress, he couldn't help but feel the sting of inadequacy. He still couldn't last beyond 3 moves against the high-rank masters. Director Kim placed a hand thoughtfully against his chin, his brows furrowing slightly. After a brief moment of contemplation, he muttered to himself, finding the situation unusual. How strange, he thought. Director Kim observed Seo closely, noting the way he now moved as one with his sword, far more in tune than ever before. Yet, despite this progress, Seo still hadn't reached the peak realm. For someone with as much real combat experience as him, Director Kim thought, it should have been more than enough to break through. A faint, self-mocking smile curved Seo's lips as sweat trickled down his face. He acknowledged the bitter truth. "This is my talent," he thought to himself. Blood trickled from Seo's nose as he forced a faint, bitter smile. In his heart, he acknowledged the cruel truth. He possessed a talent that the heavens themselves had cast aside. Seo's grip on his sword tightened, his expression strained as blood trickled from his nose. Half a day, that was his limit. If only he could sustain his sword chi effortlessly from dawn till dusk, without faltering, perhaps then he might finally catch a glimpse of the path forward. Director Kim handed Seo a thick red-bound book, his tone filled with sincerity. He expressed his genuine hope for Seo's success, then added as he passed it over. Seo sat reading the red-bound book, his expression thoughtful. Director Kim explained that it contained insights he had gained from his recent battle against cultivators. By enduring their spells and dragging the fight out for as long as possible, he had managed to hold on, and ultimately escape. Seo weighed the thick red-bound book in his hands. It was nearly as substantial as the main volume of the record of martial arts surpassing through cultivation and leaps, an evolved version of the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. With a doubtful look, he questioned Director Kim, wondering if he had truly gained so much insight merely from successfully escaping. Standing in the doorway with lightning flashing behind him, Director Kim spoke with a grave tone. To him, cultivators were like natural disasters in human form. Escaping from such a force was no small feat. Naturally, the insight gained from surviving such an ordeal would be immense. Seo assured Director Kim that he would keep the book safe and pass it on to future generations. With sincerity in his voice, Director Kim responded, thanking him. Standing at the entrance of the building with his sword in hand, Director Kim looked out into the storm. He declared his intention to seek out the cultivators once more, his voice steady despite the danger ahead. With a faint, almost grim smile, he added that he hoped they would both be alive the next time they met. Before leaving, Director Kim turned to Seo, his gaze steady despite the falling rain. He offered a final piece of advice for reaching the peak realm. Every scene, every space he passed through and experienced, Seo needed to engrave them deeply into his mind, never letting those impressions fade. Seo's eyes widened in surprise as he processed Director Kim's words. Almost in disbelief, he echoed the thought aloud. Was he truly meant to imprint all the scenery around him into his mind? Director Kim explained further, likening the practice to how one instinctively takes note of the surrounding terrain during battle or sparring. Normally, a fighter would store the layout of their surroundings in their mind for tactical use. What he was suggesting, however, was to turn that skill into second nature, something Seo could do constantly, not just in the heat of combat. Seo's eyes widened in disbelief as he tried to grasp the enormity of the advice. Maintaining sword chi alone already felt like it was about to make his head explode, and now, on top of that, he was being told to keep his spatial awareness sharp and steady at all times. The thought left him wondering how anyone could possibly manage such a feat. A wave of pressure and strain built inside Seo's mind, the thought gnawing at him relentlessly. If this keeps up, will my head really explode? He wondered, feeling the weight of the task pressing against his very limits. Seo shook his head firmly. There had to be a reason why the strongest martial artist under heaven had entrusted him with such a task. It wasn't meaningless. There was purpose behind the challenge. From that day forward, Seo committed himself to a new discipline. He made a conscious effort to remember every space that came into view, training his mind to retain every detail. Over time, he began to recall exactly where everything was. Seo moved through the bustling streets, the vibrant scene unfolding around him. Every detail, the flow of the crowd, the arrangement of buildings, the colors and sounds, he committed to memory, sharpening his awareness with each passing moment. As Seo walked through the crowded streets, he paid attention even to the smallest details, the sound of footsteps against the tiled ground, the shuffle of shoes brushing past one another. Every movement and sound became a part of the mental map he was building. Passing through the dense forest, Seo noted the rustle of leaves and the way sunlight filtered through the canopy. Every sound, every flicker of movement in the greenery was etched into his memory as part of his growing awareness of the world around him. Seo walked steadily through the forest, his breaths deep and measured, sword in hand. It had been 5 years since he began the relentless practice of maintaining both his sword chi and his spatial awareness. 5 years of unbroken discipline and focus. Seo swayed slightly, a wave of dizziness washing over him. Perceiving every fragment of spatial information that entered his field of vision was exhausting. Far from an ordinary task, and certainly not an easy one. It demanded constant focus, pushing his mind to its limits.